Moshe, are you able to hear? Moshe, are you able to hear us? Okay, good. Let's see the exception handling. What is the exception? So what is the exception? Or let's say I have written a program, main something something other, main something something other. Now, if some unexpected problem or unexpected error, my program is going to stop? Yes. So that means what? Unexpected error leading execution stop. Leading to execution stop. Execution stops. So that means what? Let's say let's say I'm started to office. So do I know that okay in the mail there will be big rain? I cannot expect that. But I can take a caution for that. Taking the caution is nothing but exception handling. So that means what is the meaning of taking a caution? I can take the jerkin or I can take the umbrella to be safer side. So that I don't need to stop my going to office. So let's say I started to office. If I did not take any caution, then if there is any big rain, then I have to stop my go. If I take a precaution or cautions, like taking an umbrella, taking a jerkin, do I need to stop my go? I don't need to stop. I just wear my jerkin and take the umbrella, and I can still move. So taking a caution is nothing but the exception handling. So therefore, unexpected problem or handling unexpected problem or unexpected errors or problems is nothing but the exception handling. Okay, runtime exceptions, runtime errors is nothing but exceptions. What does it mean? Runtime errors is nothing but the exceptions. See, I started going office. That means what? My execution is started. In between, there may be a rain or there may not be. So that means what? In the runtime, that means when I am executing, I am getting errors. Those are called exceptions. Unexpected problems, unexpected errors are nothing but the exceptions. So those are all we need to handle. Runtime errors. That means when we start, when we execute, in between or in the middle of something, we may get errors. So that's why these are called as runtime errors. So to handle this, so let's say I started to office, and to handle my rain situation, what is the possible combinations? I can take the jerkin, I can take the umbrella. The same way, to handle the exceptions in the programming language, we have try, catch, finally, keywords are the keywords. We also have throw keyword. So now we need to study all these things. Let's consider the example. I already tried this example. So for faster, let me copy this one. Let me consider this example. So if you look at here, at easy test and exception handling is two types. Okay, standard exception handling and custom exception handling. Custom exception handling is nothing but writing our own exceptions. Custom exception handling is nothing but writing our own exceptions. Standard means we can make use of existing. So first let's see the standard exception handling. So this is an example for standard exception handling. So if you look at here, I have written a class. Now I am writing a test method. Now I have taken A value and B value. Assume that I am asking user to enter A value and B value. Assume that I ask user to enter A value and B value. Is there any possibility that user never enters B value and I would like to calculate A by B? See, I'll ask user to enter A value and user to enter B value. Okay. Then in the programming, I will calculate A by B value. Okay. Calculate our results is equal to A by B. Now, let's say I have given this option for you. You may enter what? 210. Then there is no problem. You will be getting the results as 20. So if same is given to me, is there any possibility that I enter the same? So let's say I am entering 45 and I can also enter 0. I can also enter 0. So 45 by 0 is what? Unknown. It's an exception. So it is an unexpected problem. But still we can handle that. That's what the meaning here. So if you look at here, so let's say you have some statements and you are suspecting that okay, these statements may cause the issue. Okay, in the programming you have some statements and you are guessing that okay, these may cause the problem. So whatever you expect or guessing that causes the problem, keep inside the try block. So if you look at here, I have taken A value, I have taken B value as 0. A value and B value as 0. Now result is equal to what? A by B. I am just calculating A by B value. Right now B is what? 0. Right now B is what? 0. That means 45 by 0 is what? A problem. Unexpected error. So whatever you feel that okay, that may cause the issue, keep those inside the try block. So right now what happens? 45 by 0, there is a problem. If there is any problem, immediately your cursor or your execution goes to the catch block. In the catch block, there is something called exception. So you need to understand the exception hierarchy. So if you look at here, exceptions hierarchy. This is very much important. Salesforce, or this is Apex, right? Apex exceptions hierarchy. Apex exceptions hierarchy. There will be some kind of diagram. I'm just looking for the diagram. Yeah. So if you look at here, here itself we got everything. So you are not able to view that one clearly. Let me get it here. So this is a Java one. File not found, you be allowed. But you also have Salesforce one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, these are the different classes available. So if you look at here, these are the different exceptions available. So all these exceptions are under a standard class called exception. So this is a base class, from that all these are derived. This is a base class, from that all these are derived. Yeah. So if you see here, the exception class is a built-in class or built-in exception. That's why I am calling it as standard exception handling. So this is the base class. Under this, all these are available. That means synchronous exception, callout exception, DML exception, JSON exception, list exception. All these are all these things are. So therefore, exception is the base class. That means it's like this. This is the exception. Under exception, you have from this exception class, you have different classes like JSON exception class, okay, automatic exception, null pointer exception, all these things. So therefore, exception is the base class for this all these exceptions like list exception, DML exception, callout exception, all these things. So right now I am straight away using exception. So there is a problem here. Whenever there is a problem, your execution goes to the catch block. Now inside the catch block, I did exception E. If we say exception E, then it is going to display what? So what we are trying to do? A by B. A by B is what? Some mathematical. So it is going to throw math exception. You can see there will be something called math exception. Yeah, here. So this is the example, or math exception example is this one. So if anyone asks, can you give me the example for math exception, you need to tell A by B calculating or calculating the A by B value. So if B is equal to 0, then math exception will be thrown. So that's what the error, that is what the warning it is going to throw. That is what the warning it is going to throw. Okay. Next, if you see here, if you look at here, exception is the class. Exception is the class. That means there are methods inside that. What are the methods? So there are so many methods available inside the exception. You can apply those. So there is a first method called the get class or get cause. Get cause. So it will give what is the cause of this particular exception. Okay. Next, get the line number. It will tell in which line number you have the error occurred. Next, get message. It will give the message. So what is the problem like that? If you look at here, what is the message here? Divided by 0. The problem is coming because of divided by 0. So it is going to give divided by 0. So which is the line number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's why it is giving the line number 10. Next, there is a method called get stack tracing. So it is going to tell, so this class, this, okay, so this problem is occur in the P11 class. So it is going to give class.P11 and which method? ABC method. So under line number 10, column number 1, like that it is going to give the output. Like that it is going to give the output. So this is how it works. Then once try block, and if there is any problem, then catch block will be executed. After executing the catch block, finally will be executed. And remember this, if there is any problem, then catch block will be executed, then finally will be executed. Assume that there is no problem. That means I entered 45 and 10. 45 by 10 means what? There is no problem. If there is no problem, below statements will be executed, then catch will not be executed, but finally will be executed. What does it mean? So whether problem occurs or not, finally statements will be executed. I am repeating this conclusion again. Assume that you are entering 45 by 10. Scenario 1. 45 by 0 means what? Assume that you are entering 45 by 0. 45 by 0 means there is a problem. If there is any problem, below statements are, let's say after these statements there are some statements, those will not be executed. Immediately your execution will go to the catch block. That means these will be executed. After executing the catch block, finally will be executed. So therefore, this situation, in this situation, so what all will be executed? Try, catch, and finally will be executed. Take the another situation. Another situation means what? Let's say I am entering 45 by 10. 45 by 10 means what? There is no problem here. If there is no problem, these statements will be executed. Then catch will not be executed, but finally will be executed. So if you look at here, catch and finally will be executed. So that means what? Whether problem, whether exception is there or whether exception is not there, finally will be executed. If there is an exception, finally will be executed. If there is no exception, finally will be executed. So therefore, finally statements will be executed mandatorily. So then the question is, what kind of statements we need to write inside the finally? Because those will be executed mandatorily. Those will be executed mandatorily. So therefore, what kind of statements we will be writing inside the finally? So let's say you open some file, and whether exception is there or not, you need to close it. So therefore, closing the file, you can handle it in the finally. Closing the file, you can handle it in the finally. Next to closing database, you can handle it in the finally, and so on, so on, so. And releasing the memory. Let's say you created the memory, then you need to release the memory. These kind of operations you do inside the finally, because finally statements will be executed mandatorily. Whether exception is there or whether exception is not there, these statements will be executed mandatorily. So please remember this. Simply don't write finally as you have the keyboard. You should not do that way. So when to write try? If you guess these statements may give the problem, then write try block. If you assume these statements may cause the problem, then write the try block. So when to write catch? If you want to know about the problem, like what is the line number, where the message occurs, what is the message information, okay, in which class, in which method, in which program. If you want to know all this information, then write the catch block. Then inside the catch block, you handle all those things. Okay. Then finally. So when to write finally? So whether exception is there or whether exception not there, finally statements will be executed. So therefore, you need to write the statements which needs to be executed mandatorily. For example, you open the file. If you open the file, it is your responsibility to close it, whether exception is there or whether exception not there. You created the memory. So it is your responsibility to release the memory, even though exception or if there is no exception. So these kind of operations or these kind of statements you will be writing inside the finally. Okay. So if you look at here, if I enter this, what is the output of this program? So right now 45.0. So what is the output of this program? If 45.0, then here is the problem. If there is any problem, it will go to the catch block. Inside the catch block, I am printing E. So when you print E, this is the output you will be getting. System.math exception divided by 0. And if you say get cost, it is not able to identify the cost, so that's why it is giving null. Get line number. So this is the 10th line number, there is a problem, so that's why it is going to give the 10th line number. So if I am putting like this, means this is the output of this particular line number. Get message. So what is the message? So divided by 0. That means because of divided by 0, there is a problem. Okay. Get stack trace string. So it is going to give in which class, in which program, in which class, in which program, in which method this problem occurs. all this it is going to give, and finally will be executed. So let's say if I am entering 10 by 10 or 45 by 10, A is equal to 45, B is equal to 10. That means this will be executed because there is no problem. Catch is not going to be executed. Now this will be executed. So you can try out all these options. That's it. Okay, this is how you can handle the standard exceptions. So if you want to handle the exceptions, standard exceptions, you can write it. So you can also write what? Math exception directly, because you know clearly there is a divided, or you want to handle the math exception, then you can write math exception. If you don't know what kind of exception you are going to handle, then write the base class, that is nothing but exception. Even though you write math exception, that is correct. If anyone asks, give me an example for math exception, then you can give this example. So divided by 0 may call the math exception. Okay. So like that. Now let's see how to handle the custom exception. That means, so if you look at here, these are the standard exceptions. System dot math exception, system dot, everything is a standard exception. How to write my own exception? How to write my own exception? So only two possibilities. How to use the standard exception, how to write custom exceptions. Only two possibilities. Let's say, okay, so if I am calculating A by B and if B is equal to 0, then it throw exception. It is a standard exception. Now, I would like to have, let's say I am calculating my X% marks. If marks greater than or equal to 35, then I would like to display you are passed. So that's it. If marks are greater than or equal to 45 or greater than or equal to 35, I would like to display a message called you are passed. This is an exception. But what kind of exception? Do I have this kind of limits, or do I have this kind of stuff coming standard way? No. These are not the standard exceptions. So it is our own requirement. This is client specific requirement. So to handle this kind of requirement, then you need to write the custom exceptions. Let's see how to write the custom exceptions. Let's see how to write the custom exceptions. Please look at here. Please look at here. If you want to write the custom exceptions, you are going to write the class. Please see here. These are all common. Now I am writing a class. If you want to write a custom exception, step 1. Step 1 is what? Your class must extend standard exception. Please see this. If you want to write the custom exceptions, then your class, I am writing a class that must extend the exception class. That is the step 1. That is a mandatory. Next, step 2. Step 2 is what? Whenever there is a problem, you need to throw that. Whenever there is a problem, you need to throw that problem. See, this example is something like this. So if you take this example is something like this. If you take old mobiles like Nokia 1010 like that, how many maximum messages you can have in box? This example is mostly talking about that one. So if you take old mobiles, let's say Nokia 1010 or 11i something or that, right? Old mobiles. How many messages you can have in the inbox? Suprit, Varsha, Shiva. So if I remember correctly, it is like 50. After 50, if anyone sends a message, it will give a warning that your inbox is full. Your inbox is full, please delete the messages. So that is what is the custom exception. I want to handle that exception. That means what? Let's say I am writing a mobile programming and I have an inbox where I can store the messages. If messages cross certain limit, I would like to throw a message or I would like to throw an exception. I would like to throw the exception. So if you look at here, so step 1 is what? I would like to write my own exception. If you want to write your own exception, then your class must extend the exception. Then then nothing. You can write your method, public static void test method something. Then if you like, if you see here, so I am just taking a variable MIC. That means mobile inbox count. I just taken something, value is 55. So now I am checking a condition, if greater than 50. That means what is the maximum limit? 50. If 51st message comes, message comes, I need to throw my own exception. So then throw. So that's what I said, 4 keywords are there. So try catch finally, and there is one more called throw. Now you have to use throw. So step 2 is what? You need to throw your exception using new keyword. So therefore now I am throwing it. Throw new. What kind of exception I would like to throw? This exception. Inbox count exception. And what is the message I need to display to the user? Your inbox is full. Okay, your inbox is full. Please delete previous messages. That's all. So therefore, if you enter 55 greater than 50, true. If it is a true, then it is going to throw an exception. What is the exception? Your inbox is full, the additional. Or what is the exception message? If your inbox is full, please delete the previous message. So right now it is a 55. 55 greater than 50, true. So therefore it will come to the catch block. And if you look at here, inside the catch block, in previous example, we were using standard exceptions like math exception, arithmetic exception like that. But now we are using our own exception, inbox count exception. Now we are using inbox count exception. Then display the messages. Then you can write the finally. So therefore, third step is what? Step 3 is write catch with your exception class. That's it. These are the 3 steps. These are the 3 steps. I am repeating again. So if you want to write if you want to write your own exception, or the requirement is something like this. Let's say you are developing a mobile programming. So where there will be something called inbox, and that is the place you can keep your incoming messages. And there should be some limit for that. Right now, the advanced mobiles will have n number of messages, depends upon their company and all. Assume that I am going for the old messages, old mobiles. That time I remember, if I remember correctly, it is 50. If more than 50, you will be getting a warning or exception. The same thing I would like to handle through exception only. So now I would like to write my own exceptions. Step 1, if you want to write your own exception, your class must extend exception. Your class must extend exception. That's it. Now I have taken a variable. Now 55 greater than 50, true. If it is a true, then you need to throw your exception. So you can throw using new keyword, and you can pass the message whatever you want. So it is a true means it will come to the catch block. Then step number 3, you need to write the catch block with your exception class, not the standard exception class. And you need to display whatever you want inside the catch block. And here also you can use the finally. Here also you can use the finally, there is no problem. This is how you can write the exception handling. So let me execute this one. Go to setup, develop, Apex classes. Before that, let me see the trace logs, whether trace logs are enabled or not. Yeah, it's there. Thank you. Yeah. So let me go to the Apex classes. So I'm just executing the custom one so that you can see whether custom messages are displayed or not. So I pasted this program. Click on save. Saved successfully. Now let me run the program. Run test. So if you look at here, so this is run successfully. Now go and see. If you look at here, the program is something like this. PT5 greater than 50, true. True means our exception is thrown. And what is the message? Your inbox is full and all. Let's see whether you are getting that exception. Let's see whether you are getting that exception. See, look at here. Exception, inbound exception. Your inbox is full. Please delete previous message. That means we are able to handle the custom exceptions. And if you look at here, finally block also executed. What is the finally block statement? I am in finally. So that is also displayed. That's all about the exception handling. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise I will ask the questions. Supreet Varsha, if you have any questions, ask me. Else I will ask the questions. Shiva joined today. What happened to Shiva? Supreet?
And
What happened to Shiva? He about to join or he has to join?
I think he will not join it. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. So if no questions, I ask the questions you need to answer. Let's say I am writing only try block. Is this correct? Let's say I am writing only try block. Is this correct? Okay, and let's wake up and answer now.
No, catch also should be good.
Yes, this is wrong. So only try is not correct. Now I am writing try block with catch block. Is this correct?
Yes.
Yes, this is correct. Now I am writing try block with finally. Tell me, is this correct?
No, this is also wrong. Catch is
This
mandatory.
is correct.
Correct.
No, catch is not mandatory. Try block expects either catch or either finally,
Okay.
or both. That's what I am trying to say. If there is any try block, it will look for the catch block. If there is no catch block, then it will look for the finally. If there is no finally, then it will give error.
Okay.
Therefore, this is very much important. Try with catch will work. Try with finally will also work. So catch is not mandatory. Now, I have try block, I have catch block, I have finally. Now tell me, is this correct?
Correct.
Obviously this is correct. There's no duplicate. Now you tell me, I have written a try block. After the try block, I am writing some my statements, system.debug. These conclusions are very much important. After the catch block, if you look at here, I write the try block. After the try block, I have written some statements. Then I am writing the catch block. Now tell me, is this correct? Is this correct? What's your Sukhdev? English okay?
Yes, sir.
Sukhdev is making sound so that I can ask him to go for mute, right? So that you don't get make noise. Okay, fine. So if you look at previously, inside the try block we have written the statements. But now situation is like this. Assume that there is something inside the try. After outside the try or after completion of try there are some statements, then catch is there. Is this correct? This is wrong. Please remember this. Try followed by catch or finally is important. In between if you have the statements then it is error. This is very much important conclusion. You cannot write, that means if you see here, this is what your program, right? This is where try is completed. After completion of try, if you write something system.debug and all, then it's wrong. Then it's wrong. You should not write like that. Then it's wrong. You should not write like that, okay? So therefore this combination is wrong. So you cannot have statements in between. Now tell me, I have a catch block or I have a try block. Can I have multiple catch blocks? Can I have multiple catch blocks? A try can have multiple catch blocks, yes or no? Say something, yes or no? Yes, that's correct. A try can have multiple catch blocks, that's correct. Now, can I have try followed by finally? And one more finally. Can I have? See, if you look at here, this is correct. A try can have multiple catch blocks. A try can have multiple finally blocks. Is this correct? No. That is, so Varsha is correct. It is wrong. See, finally means what? It's finally. Why are you writing one more finally? So it's like what? We generally say, so, okay, give me one final chance like that. Right? Give me one final chance means that is a final. You do not ask one more finally. So the conceptually also wrong. So that's why that is wrong. Now, can you give one example where a try can have multiple catch blocks? Can you give an example where try can have multiple catch blocks? You can have n number of examples. So let me show you. So okay, so I am writing something like this. I am taking an integer, or you have something in the try block, and I can write one catch block to handle the math exception. Math exception is what? Divided by 0. Just now we have seen. Math exception, I can write one catch block to handle the math exception. So it will handle only math exceptions. I can also write one more catch block to handle the array index out of bounds exception. So array index out of bounds exception means what? Or index out of bounds exceptions. Okay. Or string, or I can write string exception or typecast exception. So if there is any type mismatch, then this will be executed. If there is any type match, then this will be executed. Like that you can write n number of examples. Okay, now let me create one more scenario. Now you need to tell. Please see this. I have written a try block. Now I am writing the catch block with exception, and I do something here. Then I write one more catch block with type exception E, and I do something here. Is this correct? You there? Is this correct? Just now I said a try can have a number of catch blocks, so this is correct. This is correct. Now let me do reverse. This conclusion is very much important because most of them are doing wrongs in the programming. Now, so they may people unknowingly they write like this. Now tell me, is this correct? Type exception, then they have written exception. So sorry, is this correct? Please look at here. Sorry, I'm on. Is this correct? This is wrong. This is wrong, and this is correct. This is correct. This is wrong. This is correct. So here, most of the people thinks that why this is wrong. So they just write something like catch exception, catch automatic exception, catch type exception, like that. They will write multiple exceptions. But at the end of the day, or when they write execute the program, they will get errors. Why this is error? Please remember this. After try block, there is an exception. Exception is what? Base class. As I said, it is a base class. That means whatever may be the problem, that can be handled here. Then is there any situation where this cat will be executed? No. That means there is no chance of executing this statement. That means this statement is never reachable. That's why you will be getting errors. That's why errors also like never reachable statements are available in the programming. Not like that you will get the error. Like that you will get the error. I am repeating the conclusion again. If you look at here, so after try block you have catch, or you have catch. The catch is nothing but what? Exception. So this exception is what? Base class. That means it can handle any kind of exception. That means whether there is a type exception, limit exception, math exception, JSON exception, all these exceptions are handled here. If all these are handled here, is there any situation where execution can go to this catch? No. That's why you will be getting error. Unreachable statements are there in the program. That's why this is wrong. Now coming to here, this is correct. Why this is correct? Let's say there is a if there is any typecast error, typecast problem. If there is any typecast problem, then this will be executed. If there is any arithmetic problem, A by B, then this will be executed. So that's why this is correct. So the conclusion is, whenever you are writing the exceptions, you need to write bottom to top. Hierarchy is what? Bottom to top you need to write. If you write top to bottom example is this one, then it is wrong. So you need to write bottom to top. Bottom to top means type exception, then exception. That means subclasses you need to write first, then go to the base classes. If you write base class and then subclasses, then you will be getting errors. This conclusion is very much important because I see most of the developers just write on the fly and they just break their head why this is wrong, why this is wrong. Whenever you write the exceptions, you need to write subclasses, then base classes. If you write base class, this will be executed all the times. There is no possibility of execution for this catch. That's why you will be getting errors. That's all about exception handling. Now if you have any questions you can ask me, else we will start the collections. Any questions with Varsha on exception handling?
No, good.
Okay. So I already discussed about the collections. Do you remember the conclusions? There are three types of collections. Okay. List, then set, then map. I already discussed the differences also. Do you remember, yes or no? When to use list, when to use set, when to use map. I discussed already. When to use list, when to use set, when to use map. I discussed already. Supreet ji, do you remember? List is what? Ordered collection. Ordered collection. Set is what? Set is what? Unordered collection. Unordered collection. So list allows duplicates, yes or no? I already told. List allows duplicates, ordered collection, and duplicates will not allow. But set allows duplicates. I spend good amount of time here. So when to go for list, when to go for set. When to go for collection also I explained. If you take a variable integer x, you can store only one value. If you want to handle multiple values, then go for the collections. At any point of time, your x can hold only one value. If you want to handle multiple values, then go for collections. So when to go for list? Let's say you are entering the values 10, 20 or 10, 20, 15, 18, 40, 6. So you enter this value. If you want the same order, then go for set. If you want same order, then go for set. If you want sorted order, then go for list. If you want to allow duplicate values, that means one more 18 you want, then go for set. If you don't want to allow duplicates, then go for list. That's it. So these are very simple, straightforward conclusions. Simple, straightforward conclusions. So ordered list, that means whatever you enter, you will be having in sorted order. Okay, so sorry. Okay, if you see here, order list. Order list means however you enter the same way, if you want, however you enter. That means you entered what? 10, 20, 15, 18, 6. The same order you want, then go for list. I'm just repeating this. This is the way you need to understand. This is the order I entered. 10, 20, 15, 18, 6. The same order you want to have the values, then go for list. And you don't want duplicates, then go for list. Set. Set is unordered list. That means what? This is what you enter. And it will have internally sorting mechanism. It will store in its own order. You will not have the entered order. If you don't worry about the entered order, then go for set. And if you want to allow duplicate values, then go for set. And when to go for map? Map is nothing but key value pairs. Key value pairs. So if you want to store something which is key value pairs, if you want to store key value pairs, then go for map. Now let's see the examples to understand more. Let's see the examples to understand more so that you will be clear. I shared the programs already, so let me explain you about list, set and map. Okay, so this is a list example. Let me explain you. So if you look at here, it's nothing. I just written a class. I just take the count, a variable, nothing more than that. Okay, public static void text method I am writing, and I am creating a list object. I am creating a list object. Now if you look at here, I am adding the elements to the list. That's what I said. If you want to have multiple values handled, then go for the collections. One of the collection is list. Now I added, okay. Now I added SAT. I added ready. Okay. Now if you look at here, I am displaying I am adding null value. L dot add null value. So when you add the null value, so null is going to be added. That's fine. Now you are trying to add what? So one more Satya. When you try to add one more Satya, you will be getting error. Duplicate, right? Duplicate values are not allowed. Sorry, duplicates list, right? List allows duplicates. Will not allow duplicates. Okay, you will be getting error. List allows duplicates. Sorry, I think I told reverse. I'm sorry. List allows duplicates. Duplicates are allowed. Set will not allow. Yeah, set will not allow. Set will not allow duplicates. Sorry, just correct this one. So ordered collection and duplicates are allowed. Unordered collection and duplicates are not allowed. Okay, so you can see this example here. I'm sorry for that. So if you look at here, I added Satya, then I added Reddy. You can write some names, whatever you want. That's not a problem. Now, if you look at here, I'm trying to add one more thing called L means list object dot add null. So if you look at here, I'm trying to print these results. What this method is going to return? This method is going to return, or this method add method checks is the null value already available in the list. Is the null value already available in the list? No. So it is added. So therefore, it is going to display not duplicate null. Next, system.debug, I am adding Satya. Satya is already available. SAT is already available. If SAT is available, no problem, it is going to add again. Duplicate, yes, it is going to add. Null I already added here. So it is going to add again. Because list is going to allow the duplicates. List is going to allow the duplicates. Now look at here. So in what way I stored? SAT, RED, null, SAT, null. So total how many values I added? 5. Total how many values I added? The same order it follows. When you display the list, the same order it follows. Let's see whether we have the same order or not. Okay, so when you display the list, system.debug list L is equal to this one. Then if you look at here, SAT, RED, null, SAT, null. The same order is there. That's why ordered list and allows duplicates. So if you look at here, Satya, Satya, 2 times are available, so it's available. Now coming to here. So whenever you say L, it is going to display entire list. It is going to display entire list. I don't want to display entire list. I want to iterate the list and display one by one. I don't want to display entire list. I want to iterate the list and display one by one. Because in the real time, most of the cases, you will not display the list like this. You need to iterate the list and display one by one. For that, we have for loop. So this I already discussed, but you can see again. So right now, list is having how many elements? 5 elements, like this. So for string yes, that means what? From this list, it will take the first element. From this list, it will take the first element and keep in the X. Yes. And it displays. I just increase the count, nothing more than that. Count right now 0, so it will be 1. Then it will go again, because it's a loop. It will go again. When it go to again here, it will take the next element and keep in the X. Then that element will be displayed. Count plus plus, it becomes 2. It will go here again. It will take the next element, that's nothing but null, and keep in the S, and null will be displayed. Like that, so on, so on, so. Now this element, keep in the S, displayed. Then it will look, is there any next element in the list? No. If no next element in the list, it comes out of the loop. After coming out of the loop, what is my C? What is my count? 5. That's it. This is how you can display the elements one by one. Let me execute this program so that you can see the output. I save the program. Now I am running the program. Run test. Okay, so it's run successfully. Now go to logs, debug logs, view. Okay, so now let's see. So the first output is what? If you look at here, so I added 2 elements. After 2 elements, I am trying to display the result of this one. I am adding an element, at the same time I am trying to display. So therefore, there should be not duplicate null. See here. There is a duplicate null. So because of this method. Then one more null is added. Now finally I am displaying list. When you display list, these are all the values should be available. Look at here, all the values available. Okay, now you are trying to display the list elements one by one. You are trying to display list elements one by one. See here, SAT, RED, null, SAT and null. You display the list elements one by one. Finally, you are displaying the count. So that means the list elements count. That's nothing but 5. That's correct. So therefore, finally conclusion is what? List is ordered collection and allows duplicates. List is ordered collection and allows duplicates. So this is how list works. Now let's see the set. Okay, now try to see here, same thing. I added Satya, I added Reddy. Now I am trying to add null. So do I have null in the set? No, I don't have. So it will be added successfully. Now if you see the theory, set allows duplicates? No. What happens if you try to store duplicate? This is the important question, please remember. So let's say I have a set, I added, let's say, ABC. So now ABC is available. Now I am trying to add one more ABC. That means I am trying to add a duplicate. What happens? What happens when you add a duplicate inside the set? That is the question. What happens? Am I going to get error? Supreet Varsha, if you look at the set, it will not allow duplicates. If it is not allowing duplicates, am I going to get errors?
Not sure.
Okay, fine. So please remember why I am saying this one is, I have seen plenty of the interviews. I ask this question very frequently. People says, what is the difference between list and set? People says, okay, list will not allow or set will not allow duplicates. Fine. What happens if I try to store duplicates? You will not get errors. Nothing is going to happen. This method returns false. That's it. And will not add this element. I am repeating this again. This method returns false and will not add. That's it. Your program will not stop. You will not get any errors. Nothing will happen. Okay. So the same way, look at here. I am trying to add null. Do I have null previously? No, I don't have. So therefore, this add method returns true. That means it is added successfully this null. Now let's see this. Is that add? I am adding Satya. Do I have Satya already added? Yes. If yes, this add method returns false. That means what? This adding Satya to the set fails. That indicates that it is a duplicate. That's it. Now see here. I am trying to add null. If you try to add null, null is already available? Yes, it's available here. If already available, then this method returns false. That's it. Now, so how many elements are available in the set? This one, and a null. Duplicates are not allowed. So when you display the set, you will see, okay, Satya, Reddy, null. That is the order. But what order you have? Null, Reddy, Satya. That means it is a sorted order. That's why unordered list. That means however you entered, the same way you won't find inside the set. And if you want to display the set elements one by one, just write the loop and take it. The point you need to understand here is that set will not allow duplicates. That's correct. What happens when you try to add duplicate element? Nothing is going to happen. The add method is going to return false. That indicates that this element is not added to the set. That's it. Okay. So here you added duplicate elements null and Satya, but those are not available. In that case, add method returns true. Other cases, add method returns, duplicate case, add method returns false. The other case, add method returns true. That means your element is added successfully to the set. Let me execute it quickly. Develop Apex classes, edit, save this program. Run test. Go to the logs, debug logs. Sorry, here name is deleted. Now let me go and run the program once. Run test. Now go here. So view the results. What is the first result? So from this program, the first result is what? Duplicate true, then duplicate false, then set needs to be displayed. Duplicate true, duplicate false, then set elements. Null, ready, Satya. Then you are displaying one by one. So null, Satya, ready, total count is 3. Even though you stored 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 5 elements, out of the 5 elements, 2 elements are duplicate, so those are not added. In list case, those duplicates are also added, that's why you see count is equal to 5. So here count is equal to 3 you see. That's about the set. So remember this, when to use list, when to use set. And so what happens when you try to store duplicate inside the set? Nothing is going to happen, you will not get any error. Only the add method is going to return false, that indicates that element is not added to the set successfully. That's just an indication, nothing more than that. Now coming to here, map. Map, as I said, if you want to store key value pairs, that means what? Keys and values. Values can be duplicate. Keys can't be duplicate. Please remember this, keys can't be duplicate. Okay, it can't be duplicate. Values can be duplicate. Okay. Now I need to highlight one thing here. Let me highlight it. So let's say I have key something 1, then value is, let's say, 100. You can give whatever you want. Key value page. That's what important one to use. 2000. Like that key value page. If you want to store, then you either use map. Now let me go through one example. I want to highlight one example here. Okay, so please look at here. I am creating a map, key value. So that means string. I would like to have 2 strings. So if you look at here, Satya 1, Reddy 2. So that means what? Please look at here. Let me close this and have MS Word open. And I would like to cover a small thing here. This is the highlight of this program. Okay, so let me have a table here. So it's a key value pair, right? Only 2 columns are sufficient. Okay, so this is what the table I have. So this is what the map. So what is the first key I have? Satya, SAT. What is the first value? If you look at here, I'm trying to put key value. Key is what? Satya, and value is 1. Next, what is the second value or second key? Reddy, and value is 2. Now if you look at here, I am trying to put null 5. Null is what key? Do I have this key here? I don't have. So therefore this will be null and Q is 5. Now, if you look at here, I am trying to put SAT. SAT is already available. As per the theory, I said what keys cannot be duplicate, right? Now, what happens if you try to create a duplicate? Please see this question again. I said keys can't be duplicate, right? If keys can't be duplicate, what happens if we try to put duplicate? Am I going to get error? You are not going to get an error. Please see this. See this, there is no problem. And if you look at here, put 5. Put null comma 5. Null is not available as a key till now. Null is not available as a key till now. So therefore put is successful. Now see here. Put Satya. Put Satya. Satya is already available. If already available, then what happens? Nothing is going to happen. This key, whatever available, the corresponding value will be replaced with the value whatever you are giving. That means what? Satya already there is a 1. So this will be replaced with 1 will be replaced with 6. 1 will be replaced with 6. That means there won't be 1. Let me put it in the red color. Red color means that is going to be, that will not be available. So that means what? Whenever you try to put the duplicate, I am repeating again, whenever you try to put the duplicate, your new value will be replaced with the old value, and put method returns this old value. Put method returns this old value. That's why when you print the result of m dot put method, it is giving 1. 1 means this one. That's it. Now look at this one. M dot put null. Do I have null again already? Yes, I have null already. What is the value I am trying to put? ABC. So therefore, in this case, what put method will do? It checks, is there any null already? Yes, there is a null already. If there is, then it will go and replace the previous value with new value. What is the new value? ABC. With new value. What is the new value? ABC. So therefore, there won't be 5, there will be only ABC. And this put method returns the old value. What is the old value? 5. So therefore, it returns 5. Are you clear with this? Supreet Varsha.
I got it.
Supreet.
Yeah, got it, Anna.
Supreet, you there?
Yeah.
So therefore, now if anyone asks what is your set is Satya 6, Reddy 2 and null ABC. So you will not have 1 and 5. So therefore, please remember this, map will not allow duplicate keys. What happens when you try to put a duplicate key? Nothing is going to happen. Your old, the key whatever you have, the corresponding value will be replaced with the new value, and the put method is going to return the old value. The put method is going to return the old value. If you want to catch it, you can catch it, or if you want to use it, you can use it, otherwise leave it. In this situation, I am not catching, I am not using. In this situation, I am just catching what put method returns, I am just displaying it. So that's what. If you see here now, this is what your set is. So when you display M, it is going to display null, Reddy and Satya. If you see null, null is nothing but ABC. If you see Reddy, 2. If you see Sat, it is a 6. Now, so if you say M, it is going to display key value pairs. I don't want to display key value pairs. I want to display only keys. Again, you write a loop and display only keys. You want to display only values, again write a loop and display only values. This is how map works. Please remember this. List will not allows duplicates, there is no problem. Set will not allow duplicate. What happens when you try to put duplicate? Nothing is going to happen. Your add method returns false. That indicates that your element is not added to the set. Now coming to the map. Map will not allow duplicates. What happens when you try to put duplicate? Nothing is going to happen. Your put method replaces the old value with the new value, whatever you have given, and returns the old value. So therefore, when you display M, that means map, it is going to display key value pairs like this. If you want to display only keys means null redis sat. Then you get keys and write the loop, like however we did. I want to display only values, A, B, C, 2, 6 and all. Just get the values and display it. That's it. Now let me run this program once. Save this program. These are very much important because without collections there won't be real-time projects. You have to use the collections in the real-time projects. Depends upon the situation, whether you want a list, set or map. It depends upon your project. But definitely you will be using all these things. Go to the debug logs. Okay, go to the view. So if you look at here, the program, what is the first thing you need to display? Duplicate null, duplicate 1. Duplicate null, duplicate 1. Now what is there? So you are displaying M. M means map. So this is what output. That means map element has to be displayed. So look at here, map elements are displayed. Now what you are trying to do, you have a logic to get all the keys and display the keys one by one. Display the keys one by one. So what are the keys? Null, Reddy, Satya. Let's see whether you are getting or not. Get all the keys and display one by one. Null, Satya, Reddy. Now what is the other logic we have? Get all the values and display the values one by one. Get all the values and display the values one by one. A, B, C, 6, 2. So if you see in the entire program, you don't find 1 and 5. Because of the reason is 1 and 5 are replaced with the values, new values 6 and ABC. So if you understand this one, then we are doing the collections. So tomorrow we'll see SOQL and SOSL, query languages. Tomorrow we'll see query languages, SOQL and SOSLs. If you have any questions till now, you can ask me. Else we can stop here. Supreet, Varsha, any questions? Supreet?
No, I am good.